This is Sportish.
Do it better.
This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish. This is Sportish.
This is Sportish. Welcome in, everybody, whether you're joining us on For the Fans, FTFnext.com, YouTube, or wherever it is you prefer to listen to your podcast. My name is Geoff Brault. He's Dr. Keith Strudler, Director of the School of Communication and Media at Montclair State University, and immediately, just by the fact that you're watching this show and we have started broadcasting it to you, have we proven that Keith Strudler is nowhere near the man that Sandy Koufax is. Oh no, you see, Sandy Koufax, friends, would not pitch on Yom Kippur, but would Keith Strudler broadcast live to you on one of the high holy days? You better believe he would, because this is a man whose ego knows no bounds. Keith, how you doing?
Happy Yom Kippur. I hope you, like myself, are just scripted into the book of life, although it hasn't been the best last year. Hopefully next year in Jerusalem, as we like to say. I am not broadcasting live. Shocking. You would think. So this is, if I'm talking, I am talking to an audience of one, and that audience of one is literally like that audience of one. This is not live. You, of course, know this because you're all seeing, all knowing, et cetera, et cetera.
No, I do know what time we broadcast our show. Oh, you weren't talking about me?
So, that's A, not live, but B, we couldn't go live because we don't know when to go live for. We'd be like sitting there at 10, like, no, come back in 2 hours. Like, so we wouldn't know, but happy Yom Kippur to everyone. I hope it's a joyous one. I probably am sitting outside at my temple under a tent, watching it on a big screen, because since one of my kids is under the age of 12, he can't be vaccinated yet legally. And so we can't really go all inside to the temple together. So we chose in Rosh Hashanah to sit outside under a tent and watch it on a television screen like it's a movie. And I really thought halfway through someone was going to change it and to be like, hey, change it to Below Deck Mediterranean.
Finally a religion I can get behind. And let me tell you, if I had to pick a deity, it might be Captain Sandy.
I haven't watched it in a long time. I'll tell you what I did start watching. I did start watching Only Murders in the Building.
Okay. Yeah, that's on my list. I'd like to get to that. I started watching, as we're just listing the shows that we're watching, the other two on HBO Max, which I think is really funny.
I haven't gotten to that. The thing now, what I don't know about Only Murders in the Building is if that fully qualifies me as a really old person, because that feels like you watch that right after Masterpiece Theater. Like,
sure. I mean, I get why you're saying that, because Steve Martin and Martin Short have been around forever, but I do believe that's why they added Selena Gomez.
Well, for a long
list.
Which,
by the way, how does that make Dan Aykroyd feel? It can't make him feel good.
Why?
Well, because he would have been the third person that you add with Steve Martin and Martin Short.
That's not why. Is that written down somewhere? Are they the three amigos?
He's like the third guy that you assume would be in the thing with them.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I never thought of it that way, but Selena Gomez is probably a step up from that. And I'll tell you what, Martin Short goes on my Mount Rushmore of funny guys, talented funny guys. He's on my Mount Rushmore.
Now, here's what I wonder about Martin Short. So I agree with you. Professionally,
Jackie Rogers
hilarious.
Jr.'s $100,000 jackpot wad is classic.
So yes, I think professionally, he's one of the all-time greats. Has to be on a comedy Mount Rushmore. Here's what I wonder, though, about Martin Short. He strikes me as the kind of comedian who's like that all the time. Like, what do you think it's like to live with him? Because I don't get the impression that he's doing shtick.
You think he's walking around like Ed Grimley all the time?
I really do. I really don't think he can turn that off. Like, I feel like that's who he is as a human being. When you see him in interviews and you see him on television, like, he's just a little too good at it to not do it all the time.
I don't know. That would be like saying that Dana Carvey is always talking like George Bush. Like I don't.
No, but you know he's not, right? Because he's clearly doing an impression of someone. Like, Dana Carvey's not sitting down at a restaurant ordering a cheeseburger in the George Bush voice. But I really do believe that Martin Short, when he goes to a restaurant, is sort of doing Martin Short.
He's really good in this show. You might be right. He may be the kind of guy. It's like Seinfeld, right? Seinfeld can only play one character, and that's himself, right? And so it's entirely possible. But I tell you what, he is funny. He's a funny guy, talented guy. Like I put him up there. Who was in the producers? The actor who's in the producers?
Nathan Lane.
I put him in that kind of like elite category.
You put Nathan Lane in the same comedic category as Martin Short?
No, not comedic. I'm just talking about kind of the elite, like five-tool kind of guys.
I don't think Nathan Lane has 5 tools. You think he's a 5-tool player?
He can sing. He's funny. He can act. I don't know what the other 2 tools are. But yes, he's a complete player. He's a complete player. You think he's a supporting cast?
I think his other producer's co-star, Matthew Broderick, is more of a 5-tool player than he is.
No, and now you're being silly. Matthew Broderick can't sing.
Yes, he can. He's in the producers.
He wasn't. I saw the producers with the 2 of them.
Me too.
No, you did not. You didn't see it.
I did too. Do you want me to get the playbill?
How did you get that ticket?
I'm a man of culture.
Yeah, but that was a hot ticket. And you're not that rich. Like, where did...
I saw it. I know people. I have experiences. That's right. We've seen the same show featuring the same people. I've seen Daniel Radcliffe in How to Succeed in Business. I've seen a lot of famous people on Broadway.
That's too bad. You know who I saw? I saw Molly Ringwald and Jason Biggs together on Broadway. It was a terrible show.
Why? Why would you do that to yourself?
Because who doesn't like Molly Ringwald?
I have no opinion on Molly Ringwald, and that is something you will not often hear said on this show.
That's the stupidest thing you've said ever. If you don't have an opinion on Molly Ringwald, you're not American. I'll tell you that much. I mean,
why do I need an opinion on Molly Ringwald?
Because she was in Pretty in Pink.
Opinions.
She was in Pretty in Pink, and excuse me?
You heard me. Never saw it. Maybe you can get your synagogue to flip that on during Yom Kippur.
And then, oh my God, the 16-year-old. Oh my God, the movie, when she turned 16.
16 Candles?
16 Candles. That one.
Never saw that either, but I do know the name of it.
You never saw 16 Candles?
I might have seen 16 Candles, but it had such an effect on me that I don't remember anything about it.
If you have, and I'm sure you have, spent a Sunday or a Saturday just dazed out in front of a television set, you've seen 16 Candles. You've seen it. Yeah, you've seen it.
I will say, no, it's not like the Shawshank Redemption where it's on TNT every other day.
It's on. Shawshank Redemption's not on. By the way, interesting story. I've never seen that.
That is more shocking than someone not seeing Pretty in Pink or 16 Candles.
No, it's not.
It absolutely is.
Pretty in Pink is one of the best soundtracks in the history of humankind, featuring the psychedelic furs and Richard Butler, who lives in Beacon now. You are stupid.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You just named 2 bands that no one has ever heard of about a soundtrack to a movie that has nothing to do with music. What a ridiculous statement. Also, I don't know if there's any movie that's ever been made that has been aired more than Shawshank Redemption. It is probably
that's not true. Rocky
available for viewing more than any other movie. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I don't think that's true.
Foolish.
I think you see more Shawshank Redemption than you do Rocky. It's got a broader appeal.
No. You're wrong. You're wrong. No. In fact, I think it wins on 2 counts. It won at its peak more plays per hour. And look, longitudinally, Rocky was made in the 70s.
Which is part of the issue. It was made so far back that for its most popular part of its run, there was no distribution channel for it. There were 4 channels when Rocky came out.
Do you know how many Rocky marathons?
The peak of cable movies.
Do you know how many Rocky marathons? Now, we're not counting Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth together. We're just counting about Rocky 1, correct?
And I love Rocky 1. It's one of my favorite movies, but it has not been aired as much as The Shawshank Redemption.
The problem with watching Shawshank Redemption, and here's where I get
never seen. So how do you know the problem? So how do you know the problem with watching it?
Because it's a heavy film. It's a heavy film.
How do you know? Maybe there's a lot of hidden comedy in there.
I think it's a comedy. You just need to look for the jokes. I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm sitting next to someone watching Shawshank Redemption and I'm just blaring out laughing, it's not going to go well.
What do you think Shawshank Redemption's about? As somebody who's never seen it, I'm very curious to know what your
they're
synopsis
in a prison.
is.
They're in a prison.
Okay,
and they're trying to get out of. They're trying to get out of the prison.
Well, not all of them.
Well, some of them are trying to get out of the prison, but they're dealing with the rigors of prison life. They're unjustly there, if I'm not mistaken. Some of them.
Well, the best part about Shawshank Redemption, and you wouldn't know this because you've never seen it, is that we don't know if they're unjustly there or not.
You just ruined it for everyone, by the way.
No, I didn't. That's made apparent in the first 4 minutes of the movie that you don't know if they're unjustly there or not.
So I'm just telling you, like, there are movies that come on that you're like, oh, this is going to be an experience. And then you're saying to yourself, I could watch that, or I could watch House Hunters International or Nathan for You. And when it's 10 o'clock at night and you're already feeling the weight of the day and all the work that you've done and everything else, I can't take it. I can't do it. Like, I mean, you go sit down on a Thursday evening when you're exhausted and be like, you know what? Philadelphia's on. I'm just gonna lay into that.
They don't replay Philadelphia 900 times a weekend because of the content of its movie. Now, that said, look, while we're on the topic of memorable experiences and cultural institutions, Monday Night Football, right? Perhaps no greater cultural institution in the world of sports, is adding a little wrinkle this year, Keith. I don't know if you've heard about this wrinkle, but this is very important. Drake, yes, Drake of Certified Lover Boy from the Six. That's Toronto. That's what the kids say. Is partnering with Monday Night Football this year, Keith, to choose musical tracks to play every week that, quote, reflect the energy and intensity of Monday Night Football matchups. If you thought watching Monday Night Football was good before, did this just take it to a whole nother level? I can't wait to see which tracks Drake picks every week that reflect the energy and intensity of that week's Monday Night Football matchup.
What if it was like last week's game between like the Jets and the Panthers? Like what kind of downtrodden tune would they have to pick?
The only way this is better, and you've touched on it, is that he should have to pick the musical track for every game of the weekend, because you are eventually going to run up against a matchup of 3-win teams in week 13.
Is he going to do like the Benny Hill theme song?
I would hope he would just pick like a tuba playing a womp womp, just a womp womp.
Well, no, he's going to do that's the sound of failure. That's no, it's from Price is Right. Bump, 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 bump.
That's an extremely sad song. When your cliffhanger guy just dropped off the edge because you didn't know how much the Totino's pizza rolls cost. Oh, yeah.
Like when they're like, I think it's higher. Bump, 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 bump.
Would you be good at The Price is Right?
Yeah, I'd be pretty good.
You would be
pretty good.
You do. So if I was like, what does a gallon of milk cost? You would be pretty close.
Yeah. And I'd also be able to judge. I'd be like, well, that that washing machine does have, it's a high capacity front loader. Like, I'm also pretty good at kind of knowing about how much the suggested retail price. By the way, if anyone's spending suggested retail on any of those items, they're insane. It'll be like a kitchen table. And it's always like that opening one. Now, I'm saying this, I haven't watched it in like 20 years.
Same. Yeah. Well, once you stop having sick days, you don't watch Price is Right anymore.
So when they bring it out, they're like, it's a kitchen table. And everyone's like, right? And obviously the one person's going last has already got $1 in their head, which I hate. All right. And so they're like $5.99. Because in their head, they're like, if anyone pays over $5.99 for that table, they're clinically insane. And then they keep going. They're like, the actual retail price. And then the one person goes $1 off. They're like $600, right? And the actual retail price, $2,412. Like, what is it made out of? Titanium? Like, what? So, I mean, have you ever seen? I've seen a documentary on some guy who was gaming The Price is Right.
Oh yeah, I did. I saw that too. Super interesting.
Weird.
I once met somebody randomly at a party who was on The Price is Right. And I found out because he had a picture of himself on his mantle of him on The Price is Right with his name tag. That's
Does he have a card? Does he? Did he win anything? Did he win?
No, he lost in the wheel spin. And the way he tells the story, he got screwed in the wheel spin. He had 95 cents and lost to $1.
That's tough. Now, but that means, but he didn't win. He didn't win his round, so he lost his round.
Yeah, he lost the game, but you still get to go spin the big wheel.
So he's just a loser. Like, so he won whatever was that opening. So
yeah, he won his table.
A color television. An alfresco dining set.
Which is every dining set, if you and I don't think we touched on this on the program.
By the way, when they do the Showcase Showdown and they're like, your Showcase Showdown is going to be about taking an RV across country. And they're like, oh, God.
You know that.
And that trip wouldn't be complete without a pop-up camper. You're like, oh, God. I don't want to do this with my kids. I don't want to go camping. And then the next person's like, and you can't get around town without a new Corvette. And there's or when you're the guy who's going to go second and the first guy's got like, and of course, that experience wouldn't be complete without a trip to the art museum. And you could just see him being like, I'm going to pass. And the other guy's like, I'm screwed. My only shot is to come within $100 and I get both of them.
For someone who hasn't seen The Price is Right in 20 years, you have an awful lot of thoughts about it.
Well, that's a show. Speaking of which, it's impossible not to watch The Price is Right and not have an opinion. It's impossible.
No, yes, it's the reason it's endured for so long. And that's part of why this is something I don't believe have gotten to on the show. Think about Mike Richards, right? The guy who was going to be the host of Jeopardy, but that didn't work out great. Started on The Price is Right as an executive producer. Did fine there, I guess, unless you're one of the people that he like sexually harassed, then I guess it didn't go so great for you. But moved on to Jeopardy, chose himself as the host of Jeopardy, the most venerable television institution in America, and couldn't make it to his first show because of comments that he made on a podcast that no one listened to.
It is. He is. We've talked about this. He is Moses. Moses.
Did we talk about that on the show?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, apparently you're not watching the shows either. So
I have joined the rest of America. But what a fall from grace for Mike Richards, which, as I was watching some college football this past weekend, thought about other great fall from graces. And Keith Strudler, you need to speak to the biggest football team in your home state of Texas. What is going on with the Longhorns?
Boy, did they get a little too maybe forgot about the game itself once they got that invitation to the SEC. And so, Texas had a nice first game. Of course, everyone outside of the UT family in the state of Texas hates them. That is, except the University of Houston, who is now a member of the Big 12, specifically because UT left the Big 12. So the Cougars are A-okay with the Longhorns. But, this was obviously a big situation where they and Oklahoma are basically transforming college football because their move to the SEC has been the pulling the brick out in the Plinko game that shakes the whole thing up, right? And they're moving over. So you would assume, particularly week 2 of the season, right? They've got a relatively new coach. Their recruiting has been pretty bananas the last couple of years. You would assume, as they are now playing the only awful team in the SEC not named Vanderbilt, you would assume that they would have, this is a team that has been universally picked to finish last in their division of the SEC. No one's worried about Arkansas, right? Mm-hmm. The only people that are worried about Arkansas right now are the CDC. They have reason.
These are, by the way, might be the nicest thing you've ever said about the University of Kentucky's football team.
No, but they won. They had a little hot streak. Stoops was there, right? Stoops, like the brother, the Stoops brother, like he not the number one Stoops, but the number 2.
The other one, the one you get because he's affordable. Remember how there was Michael Buffer was the greatest ring announcer in the world, and now ever sudden his Bruce Buffer is showing up at things. What a letdown when you get him.
This is like the Baldwin. When you're not getting Alec, you're getting.
Oh, you get a Steven?
You get Billy.
Nothing worse. There's nothing worse than a Steven.
Steve, I think he refers to himself as Stevie, actually. My wife actually met him. So at a film festival in like whatever the one in Colorado or Utah, whatever that one is.
Sundance?
Yeah.
Before
she met me. Yeah. Wait.
Your wife met a Baldwin at Sundance.
I think that's correct.
And chose you?
Well, she didn't date him. She met him.
That's what she told you.
You think I'd be intimidated by Stevie Baldwin?
I do. He's tall. He comes in, he's 6'5".
No, you're thinking of Billy.
They're all the same.
No, Billy's the tall, skinny one.
Steven's the one with the long face.
I think you're confusing. I'm almost certain.
Steven's the one that looks like somebody took Jay Leno out of the oven 5 minutes early. If we had a producing team, we could put up the side-by-side of those faces. You'd be like, well, that is a very astute reference.
By the way, our producer, our former producer, because technically I'm our producer, our former producer, are we allowed to make it the announcement? Has that been formally? No.
You mean the announcement that he's engaged?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. Should we check with him before we announce it? Mike Wallace got engaged?
Well, you found out. Was it on Twitter?
It was on Instagram, of course.
Well, then of course it's public. He'd just call you. I'd be pretty TO'd if he called you and didn't call me. After everything I've done for you, Michael. So he's engaged. So he's going to be too busy to help us with our production needs. At any rate, Texas now has a game against an SEC doormat. This seems like a good time to start to establish your currency in the league that is just cannot wait to kick your tail. I mean, how badly does Alabama want to beat down the University of Texas? I mean, how badly? Like, how badly is for all of these teams waiting to show them who's boss, right? And so and for them to lose, not just lose, I mean, not lose resoundingly, like it didn't even seem like a competitive game to Arkansas. It really it tries the imagination. Like, how did they get so bad? Like, how are they so bad? Same could be said for Florida State, of course, that was an odd loss. But the thing that's amazing with Texas is if you look at how much their athletic directors and their coaches, it's still at the apex. Like, they're still spending more than anyone.
Their athletic director is the highest paid athletic director in America.
Right. And their coach is Sarkisian, right? I mean,
Steve Sarkisian.
He gets paid in cattle and gold, right? And so and yet they recruit. Like, if you look at their recruiting classes, they always come in good. Yeah. How is it possible? And I just don't understand. It tries the imagination. And so, for other teams with that level of talent, they seem to perform relatively well. Like, it seems like they do pretty well. I guarantee you, they've got more talent and spend a lot more money than Iowa State does. And yet Iowa State somehow seems to be better. Now, there's not a lot to do in Ames, Iowa. That's part of it. They focus more on football. Do you think it's that there's just too much to do in Austin? They have too much fun?
Probably. Yeah, I think that's definitely it. Because, that's why USC doesn't win anything ever, or UCLA is.
They haven't won much. Maybe this is something. Maybe we're onto it. They haven't won anything.
The issue is that the only teams that win anything are Alabama or Clemson.
There's nothing to do there either.
And there is nothing to do in either. Well, there's more to do in Tuscaloosa than there is to do in other parts of Alabama.
My point is when's the last time you saw NYU have a good football team?
No, that's a very interesting point. In fact, I can't remember the last time. And look, Northwestern, they're never any good. They're in a great American city.
Miami has not surfaced for years.
You may have stumbled onto something here. What's the best? This is a great question. What is the best intersection of good football team and good city?
Now, obviously, good city is there's a lot of variability there because a lot of people love their college towns, obviously. But
yeah, but we mean like, international city. Like, look, I had a great time in Iowa City. It doesn't mean that I am going to put it up there against Las Vegas. Like, there are levels to these things.
That's a great question.
I mean, it might be USC. It might be USC.
Wait, but they haven't been good for so long.
Man, but a lot of that's because, they had the
but I'm saying,
shouldn't have really been issues.
But maybe that is probably.
They hired Lynn Swan as the athletic. That's always a mistake. I mean, who saw that coming?
Yeah, Lynn Swan should really focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's running for governor of the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, because what we definitely need is Herschel Walker announces his campaign for Senate in Alabama is more former football players running for public office. Did
he announce that?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Here's what we learned, though, as soon as he announced it. Apparently he doesn't live in Alabama. So,
does he know is he aware? Maybe he thinks it's like area codes on like a cell phone. Like it's just numbers now. That should be the rule. If you have a cell phone, if you have an area code on your a telephone number with the area code, you should be able to run.
That's kind of interesting. So you're saying like instead of two senators, this is actually very interesting. Instead of 2 senators per state, it should be 1 senator per area code.
That's a great idea. Doesn't make any sense. Literally no sense.
Yeah, but neither does the system we currently have. So it fits right in.
So so what's going to be interesting to see if Sarkisian survives. Like if this season goes, because what we've learned about the University of Texas, there is no end to the amount of money they will spend to find another coach. Like there literally is no, that oil well keeps on flowing. And so I will be interested to see what happens this season because it seems like Oklahoma is unfazed. They will beat every team by 70. I don't think, if Texas has a really, really rough season, I wonder if they say, we're going to the SEC, but you are not.
I'm still thinking about which college has the best football team in a fun city.
That was my best sports take in a long time.
And I said this to you as we were getting ready to record this show on Monday because somebody has something to do on Wednesday when we normally record, and that person is you. You believe in a higher power than Sportish, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I said to you as we were getting ready, I'm like, this sounds an awful lot like somebody wants to do a sports show. And it made me very nervous. It didn't put me in the right frame of mind. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to make my Stephen Baldwin jokes and to wonder.
So I'm making a hot sports take, and you're like, I'm still thinking about whether I want caramel or hot fudge on my Dairy Queen tonight.
I'm going through in my head. I'm like, is Eugene, Oregon a fun place?
No, but that's not big enough a city. I can't think.
I know.
No, that's a college town. You know what would be an interesting one if they could ever get their act together? UW would be a fun one.
And I'm sort of in my Pacific Northwest, right? That's what I'm thinking about. But I tell you, it's hard. There's not a lot.
I'll tell you what. I might have the answer. It might be Stanford.
It might be Stanford. Stanford and USC, I think, would probably go head to head as. But
USC's got to win more. They've got to win more.
Yeah, but so does Stanford. Like historically, USC's won more than Stanford. We're not just myopic about this.
Cal could knock on the door.
Yeah, well, Cal and Stanford are basically in the same place. Like Berkeley and San Francisco. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. It's actually a really interesting question.
San Francisco's a good city. It's a good city.
Are we just carving out the breadbasket of the country? Is that what we're doing and eliminating that?
Where can you have a good time in between Denver and Philadelphia? Like, there's just nowhere there. So, apologies to the 400,000 people that live in any of those cities that I may have just offended. And look, I have gone on this show, right? And I have said great things about cities like Des Moines, but they don't
Georgia Tech could make a play.
Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm not a big Atlanta fan. I'm just trying to throw out some names. I'm not a big fan. Or what if we penalize teams for having awful places?
Ooh, that's interesting. Well, I tell you what, if we do that, then Jacksonville State would not have beat Florida State. Would not. Should we tell the people the story of the time that we drove through Oxford, Alabama? Do you remember this when we were going to the Iron Bowl?
Oh, yeah. Now I get confused. Yes, we can tell them. There's not a story. We just drove.
Well, no. You don't remember the game that we were playing? So we were driving through Oxford, Alabama.
I think I do.
Jacksonville
this is not
State
a nice game.
And yes, if you thought Jacksonville State was located in Florida, you're incorrect. It's located in Oxford, Alabama. And as we're driving through this slice of America, Keith and I and Mike Wallace, shout out to him. I hear he's about to get engaged. We had offered the idea to everyone. We said, hey, we'll give you $5 million, but you have to live in Oxford, Alabama for 5 years and you can't leave. Would you take it?
But
and
literally can't leave. Like,
can't leave.
This is like a dome.
Yeah. You can do whatever you want, but you have to stay in Oxford, Alabama. 5 years, $5 million. Would you do it? We all said no. Now, maybe if we had known that Jacksonville State was this good at football, it might have changed the calculus a little bit, because at least we would have had a team to root for.
Yeah, but we couldn't have gone to the big win. We couldn't have even traveled. But I'll tell you what we would be doing. We would be tailgating like a mother at the home games. They'd be, the RV we would show. That would be a Price is Right sized RV we drive up with. What if you won the RV on the Price is Right, drove it down to Jacksonville, and it had the big thing? I won this on the Price is Right. I agree. I would not live there. I don't think I could handle it. So it's an interesting conundrum to figure out. Like, Auburn might have a tough time. All apologies to War Eagle, but it is what it is.
Did you see what happened after the Florida State game that started to get some play on social media?
No.
So Jacksonville State is celebrating in the far end zone. No. Jacksonville State is celebrating in the far end zone. Right. And on the near side of the field, and a lineman for Florida State, Brady Scott, decided that would be the right moment to propose to his girlfriend.
After a huge loss? After
they just got upset on the last play of the game by Jacksonville State inside Doak Walker Stadium, he decided, I'm going to drop to a knee. I'm going to pop open my Neil Lane diamond ring, and he proposed to his girlfriend, while literally in the back of the engagement photos is Jacksonville State going crazy after the biggest win in program history.
That would only be better is if when he opened the box, someone sang, "Every kiss begins with K." Because I imagine he's going to the mall, gets the ring, comes back. So this is a guy who is linear in his thought process. Like before that day started, he said, tonight I'm getting engaged to my girlfriend and I'm doing it one. And I think he also said, after we beat Jacksonville State tonight, I mean, that had to have been the way he said it, because there is no reasonable way that a football player for Florida State says, well, only if we win. This isn't the Florida game, right? This is not Clemson. This is not even North Carolina, right? Or North Carolina. This is Jacksonville State, right? He must have had in his head, I'm doing this after we win tonight. Was there even a glimmer of like, oh, now's not the time? Like, or is he just like,
it's the hardest thing to figure out, right? Because one side of the coin is, I feel like when you have an engagement ring, it's burning a hole in your pocket, right? The longer you keep it, there's no upside. There's no upside to holding onto that ring for longer. So I feel like once you decide that you're going to do it, there's something to be said for just doing it. Also, important to remember, it's a college football game. It doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Theoretically, there's a 50% chance he's going to remain married to this woman for the rest of his life. Now, the other side of the coin, of course, is this the day that you want to remember forever? Is this the treasured memory that you want to constantly think about every time you look at your betrothed? Is the time that Jacksonville State walked it off on you, and you, as the number 12 team in the country, wherever they were, lost to an FCS squad?
By the way, you've never held on to an engagement ring. You're right.
Of course not.
It feels like holding a piece of the sun.
Both things, Keith. Both things are things that I think touching would be a bad decision.
I mean, you feel it. Like, it brings your stomach down with you. Like, when you've got it, you're just like, oh boy. It's like stolen goods. Like, it is significant, and you don't know what to do with it, when to do it. Like, but you know that this thing that you spend a lot of money has the potential to cause a lot of damage. It's tough when it's in your pocket. Oh boy. I mean, It's not a feeling I'd like to recreate.
Would you have still done it if you were planning to propose on the field after a game? Would you have still done it regardless of how the result went?
No, I would have used that as an excuse to take a break. It's kind of like when you're about to jump off the high dive and then you're like, oh, lightning. I'm getting off. Yeah, I think I would have.
That's interesting. So you're saying that maybe the loss was a sign and that he wasn't paying attention to what the universe was telling him.
It certainly doesn't seem like it was a positive omen. I mean, so if I were him, I would have taken a break. I would have taken a step back. You want to remember it as a nice day. I mean, there are days you don't do this. Like you don't propose on Yom Kippur. I was going to name some other horrible days, but then I'm just going to politically really just destroy myself.
Would you not propose on Yom Kippur? Is that a thing?
No, you're starving. You haven't eaten. You can't drink.
Why not fill your belly with love?
I don't think there's supposed to be any like relations during the high holiday.
Is that part of the doctrine?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Huh.
But I'm going to tell you, you're not in the mood. I'm going to be honest. You don't want to like get thirsty. You don't want to do anything that's going to precipitate this getting worse. You really just want to put yourself in something of a coma. Just kind of make it to the other side.
Counterpoint. How long was it? Like a 26-hour fast?
Yeah, it's a long go.
What if you did it at 26:01?
No.
You're like, all right, we've just come through this great struggle together. I'd like to struggle with you for the rest of my life.
You mean, I thought you were talking about being physical. Because at that point, let me tell you what.
No, I'm talking about the proposal.
I'm telling you, when the clock strikes and you see the 3 stars in the sky and it's nighttime, all you've got to, it's get me to that porterhouse, like whatever it is that you want to put in your belly. Get me to that lock spread. People are literally fighting each other for glasses of orange juice. Like there is not gonna be a ring ceremony. Like people are really this is like a clearance sale, like for wedding dresses, like when they have the big sale, or what was the store in Boston where they'd open it up and everyone would get trampled. That's what we're talking about here. All right. This is like open seating at an AC/DC concert when they open the doors. No, you do not get in the way. Do not get in the middle of Jews looking to break the fast. Do not.
I tell you what, I have been grossly misinformed about Judaism. I did not know that the end of Yom Kippur came with such a rush.
It absolutely does. I mean, you're near death.
So Brady Scott got engaged. Speaking of great disappointments from the last weekend, Novak Djokovic was so close, Keith Strudler. And now everyone in America would not have known this was happening because they decided that the U.S. Open men's final, where Novak Djokovic was going for Grand Slam in history, would take place dead smack in the middle of NFL Week 1. This received, no fanfare. I almost had no idea that this was happening, and I cared far more about watching Djokovic go for the Grand Slam than any Week 1 NFL match.
Of course.
I in my head was like, why is no one talking about this? Why is no one talking about this? Oh, right, because football's back. And it turns out they were also right, because Novak Djokovic did not show up. He played, it had to be one of the worst matches of his career. It was never awful.
It was really, by the way, the women's final wasn't very good either. And I think let's address the women's final. You had 2 unranked, you had your qualifiers playing, and I think the weight of
one qualifier, only Raducanu was a qualifier.
One qualifier, both unranked. The weight of I've got nothing to lose all of a sudden became I only have to beat this person to win the U.S. Open. Right. And every calculus shifted when they got into Ash in the final day, because before that, it was always house money. Now it was their money. And so
correct. And if you think about it, though, the script kind of held, right? Because Raducanu, who was 150th in the world, beat the player who was 75th in the world, which up until that point, she was always the sort of the David in the David versus Goliath. And now you look at a gap that sizable in the world rankings, like Raducanu just sort of kept doing what she was doing. The difference was this player had less renown to the rest of the world, even though to a player like Emma Raducanu, it's kind of just the same thing, same script. She didn't lose a set.
No.
And she's 150th in the. This is also what's crazy about world rankings. 2 weeks ago, she's 150th in the world known to her. Now she's like 24 because she won one tournament.
Yeah, and then it'll keep going. The tennis rankings make no sense, but which is always why, like, when someone doesn't play for a while and they're like, "Oh, you're going to be playing in the first round, unseeded Serena Williams." You're like, "Wait."
That's right. You're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, what?"
I feel horrible. They're like, the number 6 player in the world draws Serena in the first round because she hasn't played in 2 years. They're like, this time out. I will seed. I'll drop down. So this is the same thing happens in like the playoffs when they're like, the Lakers decided not to play until the last week of the season. And you're the Suns. You're like, this is not fair. So that match was pretty lackluster. Then both played pretty tight, relatively tight. The men's match, though, I mean, oh my God, Medvedev. I said that right, didn't I?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right, strong player.
It didn't seem like you were going to come up with a name.
No, I was struggling a little bit. I was having trouble for sure. Very skinny, very sinewy. Yeah.
Floppy hair.
Yep. And played well all tournament. But it did seem as though this was going to be a coronation, even through the first set, because Djokovic, for whatever reason, seemed to want to lose the first set of every single match. I mean, it almost seemed as though that was the only explanation, because it was impossible to think that he would lose every first set. So loses the first set. I think everyone still believed it's going to be his. Loses the second set. I think a lot of us still believe. Down like 5-3 in the third set, and I was like, he's gonna win. Like, he's gonna remember there was and by the way,
totally agree. Even when it was championship point, you're still like, but really all he's got to do is get this point, and then he breaks in the advantage, and you're like, he'd already gotten
one break. I will also say this: how obnoxious are New York tennis fans? Like, can they shut up during, like, Medvedev's trying to roll? Like, I mean, I cannot. This is the people. I can't stand it. People who are like waiting and it's getting quiet and they're like, Jimmy! Doing for the Connors there. I can't stand it.
That's their moment. Most people don't have what we have, and that is a platform to reach tens of people every week.
But I went literally, and everyone's like, and then the chair ump has, like, I'd like to see the chair ump get a little salty because they don't have to call things anymore because it's all machines now, as we illuminated in the last episode. Mm-hmm. Chair ump should be like, if I hear you talk again, I will walk up there and slap you across the mouth myself. Section 315, row N, I will be there in less than 5 minutes and you will regret the moment. So I would like to see the umps take a little bit more and point them out and make them recognize what's about to happen. But Medvedev likes to walk. He's not one of these. He's like the anti-Nadal. Like, Nadal likes to kind of strut around, take a little time. Medvedev's like, I have a reservation at a restaurant tonight in Manhattan, and they are hard to come by. And so he runs right through this. But I think they actually impacted the match. I think they're yelling, they were like, Djokovic, Novak, come on.
Well, they're trying to inspire their man to victory.
But the worst one is, because it kind of goes for a while and then it stops. The one who, after it stops, the one who's like, now's my time. That's the one. Like, it wasn't just like, hey, everyone's yelling and screaming. It's like, it's quiet. Everyone's quiet. And then they go, right? Stefan!
So we've learned.
And then they get the biggest, the most tepid hand slap in all of sports fandom when everyone's like, whistles. By the way, I tried to explain to Elliot, because we've been playing a lot of tennis, that when the ball hits the net and drops over, you're supposed to apologize. He's like, why would I apologize? Like, you just do.
So we've learned that the two things that you believe are missing from tennis are more silence and chair umpires slapping patrons.
I'll tell you what, they get a few slaps in, I won't have to worry about the silence. Everyone will snap to attention. After the first time that happens, they won't happen again. I'll tell you that much. So yes, I do. I find it ridiculous. It's rude. It's rude. It's rude. There is decorum. It is a gentleman's game. And that's why Ash is terrible. And I don't know when they started filling Ash with like the remnants of like the old veteran stadium in Philly. Like I don't.
First of all, I need you to reconsider your tone when discussing my people. All right. We don't need you to be disparaging the 700 level, which, listen, just because a couple hundred people every weekend decided to openly urinate in the top deck of the stadium does not mean that the entire city deserves to be painted with that brush. It just doesn't. That's unfair. All right. Because a couple of bad actors decided to beat up Santa Claus and hurl batteries at players they didn't like does not mean that you can just say that the entire city is full of unruly charlatans. It's not fair. All right. It's not fair for you to take this representative sample of the population and say that they are somehow indicative of everyone from that place. I won't stand for it. Not on my airwaves, not up in here.
You're right. You know, as they like to say, 5,000 does not a trend make. So at any rate, what's interesting though, I mean, Novak had a real breakdown. I don't know if you saw, like he was in tears towards the end.
He admitted that the pressure was unlike anything he'd ever felt before.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine. And I mean, here's the other part of it. Like I'm sure he's glad that it's over. I bet he wanted it real bad. I mean, there are so few accomplishments that you can achieve in sport where you're on a list of two. I mean, there's almost none.
He was literally going to have the undisputed claim of best of all time. And this isn't something like the 100-meter dash where you can win it back on a moment. This is not the heavyweight championship. Right? This is like excellence over time. Like this is what Tiger was going for. This is sustained. This is what Jordan kind of accomplished, right? It's so hard to get there. And he, like Serena, by the way, staring at it. And here's the thing. There's a chance that neither of them get there. I think Novak will, but there's a chance they don't. I don't think so. No, I'd be shocked if Novak had another shot at a Grand Slam. It's so hard. Oh, no, the Grand Slam. I'm just talking about the all-time record. Does he have the all-time?
Well, Novak could still get that, but I mean, he's still already arguably the greatest of all time, but he had his chance to do something
he's not going to get a Grand
Slam. Few people have done.
And he was so close to one of my favorite terms on the Golden Slam.
Speaking of things so few people have done, thank you for everyone who watched this entire episode of Sportish. That's all the time we have for you here on For the Fans, FTF Next, wherever you get your podcasts, or of course YouTube, which is a place where no one is discovering the show anymore, but theoretically could at any moment. So you could absolutely feel free to
tweet out. Why aren't you tweeting out the links to the podcast? You're not doing your job.
Because I'm busy is why. And you know why else? Because no one cares anymore. They just don't. All right? See you next week or not. Statistically, probably not.
Thanks for listening to Sportish. See you next time.